Saving Beige by Kimmy L. Davis, Chapter 7, The Hermit. The back door opened and Clarice's voice sang out a familiar song. Sam! You're up? I heard her use her mom voice. Go back upstairs and lie down. I'll bring you some tea. On her way back from making sure he went upstairs, she stuck her head into the parlor. I can't wait to hear about this dream, Beige. Go ahead and get your cards and we'll see what's going on. It really was eerie the way that she seemed to know everything. It's entirely possible, even probable, for people we love to communicate with us from the other side through our dreams, she said as she sat next to me on the floor. Her large green eyes were so like Sam's. She looked tired but happy, and I wondered how long it had taken her to stop crying for her husband. Or had she? I tried not to let what I knew show on my face, but it was hard not to act differently around her knowing what I knew about her family. I think that what might make this more than a dream was your lack of control. If you really are a lucid dreamer, it's highly unlikely that you couldn't have brought Kira back. I definitely think that Kira is trying to communicate with you. She may have important things she wants to share. People rarely stay in contact unless there's unfinished business. You didn't mention what she was talking to you about. I stayed quiet and answered with a non-committal shrug. Kira wanted to weigh in on my love life, and since her son had been part of what Kira was talking about, I thought it best to keep any future dreams to myself and just keep doing the cards with her. I really wanted to hear what she thought of my experience that morning. Listen, I did a reading after I woke up. I know, I can't wait to hear what happened. It got weird, sort of scary, but exciting too, I said. I didn't just turn over the card and think about what it meant like we did here in the shop. It was like I was part of the cards. I could feel them. If the first card I turned over hadn't been the sun, I might have been too scared to keep going. The sun, that's a very fortunate card and full of love. I wish I could have been you to see what that felt like. I can only imagine, she smiled and looked at me as if to say, what else? But I was still troubled by the feeling of being in the card. You don't think that's strange? I asked. Not in the least, silly girl. She was starting to use her mom voice on me. It sounds very familiar to how my gift works. Here, let me show you. Do you have something meaningful that you always carry with you? I pulled out my wallet and handed her a coin from England that I'd carried since my first trip there 3 years ago. She held the coin in her hand, closed her eyes, and took deep, even breaths. I almost thought she fell asleep, but she finally opened her eyes and handed me the coin. It's wonderful to have a dream for your life, Beige. You will definitely spend more time in England, and that time will include a very handsome young man that loves you. What did he look like? I asked before thinking. I didn't really see him. I hid my disappointment. If he'd had curly brown hair, I could have had my answer without even bringing up sex. It was more like I felt what it was like to be you in the future. That's psychometry for me. I take an object, and when I hold it, I can feel the past or future of its owner. It's a lot like what happened to you when you read the cards this morning. When I hold the object, the rest of the world falls away. I see colors, feel feelings, and just know things. That didn't happen to her when she read the cards. For her, the tarot was much more logical, and while she followed her intuition, it never really overtook her. The fact that mine did meant the cards were special to me. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Being special in this way might mean more responsibility than I wanted. They're definitely your gift, Beige. It's a relief to see that we're on the right path already. The path to what, Clarie? You said I have a destiny, but what am I learning the cards for? I didn't come here that first day to learn about the tarot, and I'm more confused than ever about Kira. If I knew what you were here for, I would tell you, Beige. I don't. And I don't know what Kira wants from you either, but I do know that everything happens for a reason. You're supposed to be here now. She touched her hand lightly to my cheek. I know you're scared, but there's no reason to be. Let's keep going. What was the next card? Feelings of despair and rage warred inside of me as I said the Tower. Wow. This reading is very accurate for where you're at present, don't you think? You lost a loving aunt and friend? That would obviously result in the feelings you described. It's not a card you hope to see in a reading, but it makes sense. What did the last card tell you? How will the future play out? Will you have contact with Kira again? She laughed as if she knew the answer. But I didn't know the answer. When I looked at the card for the future, it hadn't been like the others. The last card was the Hermit. I don't think we'll be together. The Hermit stands alone. Beige, that's not right. She looked shocked. You need to interpret the card again. Kira's already with you. She's already talking to you in dreams and maybe other places too. Clarie, is it possible that I could be hearing Kira's voice in my head when I'm awake? I asked, hoping the psychic wouldn't think I was psycho. Anything's possible. What's she been saying? Again, most of Kira's comments seemed to revolve around Ethan, Sam, and sex. I decided to keep that to myself. Nothing you would understand. How would you interpret the hermit? Well, she looked at the spread. We already know the answer to the general question, but I would say that it represents a guide or someone who will show you the way to interpret Kira's presence in your life. Sam's face popped inside my head, and I heard his voice again. I get it. Clarie, I don't want to be rude, but I stayed home today because I didn't feel good, and I'm getting pretty tired. Would you mind if I left? This is way too much to think about right now. Was Sam's role in my life more important than I thought? I'd never think you were rude, but... Clarie reached for my arm. Beige, honey, I think you should let Sam drive you home. I can't. I kind of have my dad's car out without permission. I need to have it back before Mom gets there. Yes, about that. If you're the one that drives that car, it won't actually make it to your garage. What are you talking about? Sam appeared out of nowhere and took the keys from my hand. Hey, give me those back. He was out the front door before I could stop him. Clarie just shrugged her shoulders and shook her head as if to say, what can I do? When I reached the car, he'd already begun readjusting everything with no thought to the consequences. Stop! Don't change that radio station. I have no idea what he had it on. Oops, he slammed the driver's side door and turned the key in the ignition. I could feel the anger vibes in my chest, but Clarie put her arm around my shoulder. It's for your own good, Beige. You'll be safe now. She jingled her own keys in Sam's direction, and he cracked the window. I'll follow behind and get you after you park. It seemed weird to be in the passenger seat of my dad's car with someone besides my dad driving. It was obvious Sam liked the car and was taking full advantage of his chance to see what it could do. Really, Sam, I'm not in a hurry. You can slow down. We'll beat my mom home by hours. Other than my useless attempts to slow him down, there really wasn't any conversation. I thought maybe he felt uncomfortable about sharing as much as he did earlier. So, why did you have to drive me home? Silence. I looked back to see Clarice serenely grooving to some song on her radio. When we pulled into the garage, I let him park, knowing I would have to redo it later. So, you're not going to answer me? No reason at all? Why do you think, Sherlock? He picked up my purse, sitting it in my lap. Checked your phone lately? 3 missed texts from Ethan lit up the screen. Oh, I couldn't hear it because of the music you had blasting. I'm going to have to figure out what to do about that, too, by the way. I have no idea what my dad was listening to. Book on CD, Chapter 12. What do you think would happen to you when you went to answer that text from Ethan while driving? He said the name as if it left a bad taste in his mouth. Nothing. But I knew. There's no way I would have let a text from Ethan wait until I got home. I would have been looking down to answer and... Was that what Clarie had seen? As if to answer my thoughts, Sam nodded his head. He opened the door and slid out with a look of regret on his face that I suddenly wished had been there because he was leaving me and not the car. Later, Beige. He was down the drive before I could get out of the car. Thank you, Sam, I called after him, but he was gone. I moved across, put the keys in the ignition, and made everything exactly as it had been that morning. I would have been grounded for life if I'd wrecked Dad's car, and it was now, he'd be none the wiser, and I had Clarie and Sam to thank for it all. Once inside, I turned my attention to my phone. Ethan's texts were garden variety. Heard you were sick, feel better soon, we still on for Saturday night. But despite their boring nature, they got me a little excited. He missed me. He was thinking about me at school, and he was looking forward to our date.